The industry rankings have Kansas State low when it comes to the transfer portal rankings, but I have an expert here to tell you otherwise. Let's talk about it on a special crossover edition of Locked On Kansas State and the Portal.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome on into a special college crossover of Locked On Kansas State and the largest growing video YouTube show on the Locked On Podcast Network, The Portal by Brian Smith. Brian Smith, what's going on, my man? This is going to be an exciting episode. My viewers are dying for recruiting and portal news. I see it in the comments. I see it getting in my DMs on Twitter X. I had to get you on, and man, you were so fast. I texted you, and I just talked off the air. I feel like I didn't get the chance to put my phone down before you picked it up. You just love talking ball, my friend.
It is what I do. It's 7 days a week, 365. Let's go.
Well, I love it. Well, The Portal is a great show on Locked On Network. You can find it on YouTube or anywhere you listen to your podcast, and you dig into one of the most interesting topics in all of college football, the transfer portal and recruiting all year round, and that's exactly what we're going to do on this crossover edition. Before we dig into that, though, today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your money with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Look, the biggest thing that I think I have to ask you right off the bat, Brian, and I really wanted to get an expert's opinion view on this, is when I look at the transfer portal rankings, you go to 24/7, you go to On3, Rivals, you name it, and Kansas State is towards the bottom in the Big 12 when it comes to transfer portal rankings, and I'm baffled by it. I know that some of my viewers on the Locked On Kansas State are bamboozled by it, but you have, and the reason behind it, before I get your opinion of why we feel like it's a stab, is one, retention. And I don't know if that's put into the rankings. Maybe that's the reason why it's so low, but we didn't lose anyone big. Now, there was some players that we were upset that left, maybe Trey Spivey, who left to go to Arizona. But every single position that was a need, especially wide receiver and defensive back, I feel like they went out and added some great pieces. And I feel like they're getting disrespected in these rankings. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the portal is a way different deal. I'll just go ahead and announce this right off the top. A lot of what we can and can't report is based on behind the scenes. What is the kid like off the field? His handlers, et cetera, et cetera. This is more about recruiting, but it grows into the portal too. And Kansas State is not a premier program in terms of eyeballs. It's not Ohio State. It's not Texas. It's not Florida, et cetera. They're going to get less attention in general unless they get like an elite quarterback that everybody wanted or something like that. So maybe some of the kids, I'm guessing, because I'm looking at the list now and I'm like, Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, they got SC, they got kids from elite programs that came in. And like, I know some of the, like Jayshawn Ross from Alabama was a really highly touted player coming out of high school. So I am a little baffled by it too, but understand this is not exactly like recruiting. The school that you represent, this probably makes K-State fans mad, but they're not going to get as much attention. They've got to not win the game. They need to win by 5 touchdowns on something like this, in my opinion. They're going to cater to the schools that have more eyeballs. Like fair that, don't follow the rankings because that's the way that works.
And that's fair. And I like transparency. And unfortunately, that is true. I mean, especially right now in the eyes of what we're starting to see. I mean, the perfect example is what we're seeing with these media deals with ESPN. And I know you might not like this because I know you also cover, you cover the portal and the entire college view. But, SEC and Big Ten bias is real right now with the Power 2/Power 4, if you will. And Big 12 is not getting as much love. And I'm sure you're absolutely seeing that as well with your viewers and your listeners. So I guess that makes a lot of sense, maybe why the rankings are low. But when you look at it as a Big 12 as a whole, you see them sitting more towards the bottom. And I look at some of these players, and you mentioned it. They're coming from these premier schools that you like to call for. I mean, just in this spring, we had a guy, JB Nelson, honorable mention, Big 10. Oh man, he's so good. I'm so excited to watch him play. And he's a player that could be a day one starter on this offensive line, an offensive line that produces NFL draft picks. So do you think that we're in the wrong state of mind to feel like Kansas State's being disrespected in these portals, or maybe we should shut up and dribble?
No, I don't think they're wrong. The only concern I have is the same one I've talked about on my show. And I also do Locked On Seminoles as well. When Florida State had the 23 season, and they were obviously very, very good, they hit the home run on the portal. The next year they went to the portal again, especially for linemen, because Norvell's not a very good recruiter. I'll just go ahead and say it. They really struggle with offensive line recruiting, et cetera. They took a bunch of kids from Georgia, Bama, et cetera, that were highly ranked out of high school, but kind of washed out at these programs. And of course, last year was an abomination. Outside of using cuss words, I called that program about everything I could call it by game 3. People, oh, they're going to rebound. No, they're not. I'm watching the games. This team is terrible. They had a bunch of kids infighting. They had a bunch of stuff, concerns about money behind the scenes with NIL, locker room problems. If you take kids from the elite programs, you better be careful which ones you take. Now, Nelson, I'm not worried about, but I see a bunch of elite programs here, and the kids didn't work out. I'm a skeptic by nature, and K-State's always had tremendous culture, especially under Bill Snyder, obviously. Are they getting the right guys? Because K-State's the kind of place, I'm guessing it's still pretty tight, and they take a few JUCO kids, they take a lot of 3-star guys and bring them up. They just got to make sure they brought in the right players. But Penn State, Ohio State, Pitt, and all these programs like Alabama, that looks great on paper, but that's the exact same thing Florida State did last year, and it bombed. Everything else I like. I still think the biggest thing is it's K-State. They're not going to get the same respect, and I know flat out the eyeballs are not the same.
Yeah, the culture was unmatched with Snyder, but I'd say with Chris Kleiman, it was just as good, and it is just as good right now. Starting 7-1 last year, obviously had a disappointing finish, went to the Rate Bowl, had a great ending to the Rate Bowl, and then I think the momentum is really high. Had a good recruiting class. This transfer portal class I still think is really good. Before we kind of dig into the future of this program and what's to expect moving forward, I want to get your thoughts on that. Is there any of these names, after you're looking through this transfer portal list, that really stick out to you that you think could be a big impactful player for Kansas State this year?
Well, JB was the first one I brought up in my head, and then you mentioned him. Zach Sako, guy that I know well, runs the Penn State site for Locked On. He does a great job. That's a kid they would have liked to have kept. And Penn State's O-line does not suck. They're just loaded, and he was like the first guy off the bench. He started part of the U23. You know, there's competition. He can go somewhere else and guarantee himself a starting spot. Like K-State doesn't have the same line that Penn State does. Penn State might have the best line in the country this year, but that guy's going to start for almost any program in the country. So I'm going to go there first. After that, and if I'm right on the second one, it will be a good year for the K-State program, and that's Jayshawn Ross. Very athletic. He's long. He fits the profile of the SEC kid that plays at Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, Bama. And he was at Bama. Jayshawn Ross is that guy. I don't know why it didn't work out at Bama, but their depth chart even now is ridiculous at defensive end. Highlight out, they have a lot of guys built like him at K-State. And I'll bet he makes an impact or he's a complete wash. It'll be one or the other. That's the way it's kind of worked with the kids that wash out from some of these other programs, or it doesn't work out, whatever it may be. But the physical skill is there. Those are the two I'm most curious about.
I'd be excited to see that. We talk a little bit about Ross on our show, more of just the idea of getting more of a pass rush and getting together with some of the other defensive linemen on this team. More pass rush is absolutely what Kansas State could utilize. Defense was a big question mark last year for us, mostly in the secondary. Still found a way to produce 2 NFL draft picks, but with some more pass rush up front, I think the linebacking core got better in the transfer portal as well. And then I think the secondary is really interesting with their additions. I really like how Kansas State is building up under Chris Kleiman. Now, will it translate? That's a completely different question. And we will get a first taste of that. All of us will. Week 0, the first game of the season, Kansas State, Iowa State. So you get to see that game before any other games this year. It's the first game of the year, Brian. We are less than 100 days away from that. How are you feeling about that?
Well, I love the fact that we're under the 100-day threshold. I know Rauh because I used to live in Tampa. I know him and his family well. They're great people. Your secondary better be ready. I know they lost 2 pretty darn good receivers, but Rauh can spin it. So that'll be a really big challenge, and that's another reason you need Ross to be ready to pass rush too.
All right, I'm going to mute that portion, that last 30 seconds of that show for this Kansas State episode. So if you heard that Rauh information, that was completely false. And don't tell Nick Maravitz over at Locked On Cyclones. Next up, I want to talk a little Cruton here, get a little top-level knowledge from Brian Smith. the host of the largest growing show, the most fastest growing show in the Locked On Podcast Network, The Portal. You're talking right here on this special crossover edition of Locked On Kansas State and The Portal. Hey, this episode of Locked On Kansas State and Locked On Portal is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Well, between online shopping and dining out and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. Brian, I'm sure you do it. I do it all the time. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your financing. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in just one place. So you stop managing your money and start building wealth. The biggest issue I had before I used Monarch Money, Brian, I spent so much money on food delivery. I mean, you name it, it was bad. It was really, really bad. I'm getting a lot better. I even found out this week how to hard boil my eggs. I mean, I know I'm in my 30s, but I'm learning small things right now. And I thank Monarch Money for stuff like that. Now I'm not going out and spending on useless junk that's probably not good for me anyways, and I appreciate Monarch Money for that. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money right now. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com. 50% off your first year to help change your life. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Welcome back to this special Locked On crossover, college crossover, Locked On Kansas State and the Portal by Brian Smith. We are talking transfer portal, and now I want to just dip on over to a little bit of recruiting here, because that is in the forefront in Kansas State's mind as well. Last season, they brought in one of the best recruiting classes, maybe in program history. They definitely brought in the top recruit in program history. If Linkon Cure coming over, he is the top recruit in most of the industry's eyes in the program's history. Really exciting stuff. I think he's going to be an absolute joy to watch on the field. Will he be more of a tight end? Will he be more of that wide receiver? I think it's up to, we'll find out what actually is going to happen. He looked really good. We just saw him win some track records, win some track championships, if you will, in high school. That makes me wonder. He might go to the wide receiver side, Brian. But I want to go to the Ian Premer talk first for 2026 before I dig into Linkon Cure and the rest of that class. Ian Premer brought down to his final 5 schools. Kansas State's in the mix. Could be another top tight end heading into this program. Kansas State loves their tight ends. Last year led the complete country in red zone touchdowns for tight ends. Could be adding to that mix. Brian, what is your thoughts on the Ian Premer situation, and maybe if Kansas State can land this guy?
This is a down to the wire kind of deal. Iowa State, one of your least favorite programs, is also very much involved. The Fighting Irish are, and that's always dangerous. They're as good a tight end school as there is in the country. And he's still got some other visits too. A few points. Always follow the visits. Notre Dame's done a good job recruiting him. They were at his basketball game the other day or whatever, a track meet, something. I forget what it was. He's been recruited by everybody. But also follow which order he goes, what he says after him. Does he take the interviews? I don't know what his date is for committing. Some of these kids announce it. Sometimes they don't. But the visit dates are very, very important. Did he go K-State first? Did he go with Notre Dame first, et cetera? There are different trends with that. I think it'll end up being one of those two. Iowa State is kind of the wild card, but I think the Iowa State thing aside, it's easy for him to stay in the Big 12 with the point you made. If you're going to win over like Notre Dame and their prestige, you got to be able to sell development and productivity. Obviously, they caught the most red zone touchdowns. That's a great stat, by the way. So that's what you're going to look at. Now, the other factor is probably not in K-State's control. How much does he just want to stay close to home? No clue. It's a long way from Kansas to South Bend, Indiana. But if that's a big factor, they'll win out. If not, my guess is he'll end up in South Bend because they don't lose many of these battles for tight ends.
Well, we have some good luck as of recently when talking to major power schools when it comes in the recruiting ranks with winning the battles. Linkon Cure almost went to Oregon last year, winds up sticking around and staying at Kansas State. Could they be 2 for 2 in 2 straight years, this time with the Irish? We'll find out. You talk about the order of scheduled visits. The last scheduled visit is to Kansas State. And he did say in a recent interview that he will take all of his visits for all 5 schools. Does that put you in a good situation if you're Kansas State, knowing you're last? You get the last impression before he makes that decision?
It can't hurt. I think K-State's a program that's the least important visit in general, because I'm sure he's been to the campus Lord only knows how many times. But you still would like to have the last chance to sit down with him, talk, like for those that don't know, and everybody thinks differently on this, but I'm going to also educate people. NIL discussion really doesn't happen very often until an official visit. There are some exceptions, but not many. So what that number or how it's broken down, all that stuff, that's what the official visit will do at most schools. Notre Dame is pretty conservative with how they do it and paying up front and all this. They sell the degree in development. K-State, in some ways, is a lot like Notre Dame. It's a developmental program. So I think the visits will be kind of similar. How that conversation goes with NIL will be very important. And then does he announce, hey, I want to make this decision right after? Does he make the decision 2 weeks after, et cetera? There are the little things. But I know that Linkon Cure is somebody that's recruiting him. He's trying to talk to him about, hey, come play with me at K-State. That can't hurt. So maybe they get him in front of him. That could be possibly the last voice in his ear, like a face-to-face conversation. I would rather have the last visit than not. I'll say that.
I keep seeing these graphics on your portal, Twitter, and of course your YouTube as well, talking about the top positions in the 2026 class. You've done quarterback, you've done running back, you've done wide receiver. I'm expecting to see tight end probably come out in the next week or so. Can we expect Ian Premer to be on that list?
He'll be top 3 or 4. Yeah, nationally. Yeah, I don't know exactly. I got to go back through the film to. It's possible he's number 1. It depends on the offense you run. Like, he's not a massive kid. If you're like Michigan, I don't think he would necessarily be number 1 because they want to pound it more. But for like Lane Kiffin's offense or anybody that wants to spread it at all, Ian is 100% what you're looking for. So I like him a lot, and I think eventually he will grow into an even better blocker than what he is now. And not many guys are going to be able to handle him, whether you put a nickel on him, a corner, a safety, a linebacker. It's a problem. He's a little bit more athletic than you would normally expect for a guy of his size, and he's only going to get better. And he's also probably going to take a massive jump in terms of how he handles situations, because I'm not trying to pick on anybody here, but the difference between Kansas high school football and like Power 4 is enormous. Once he gets used to the speed of the college game, look out. He has a chance to be an NFL player.
You talked Linkon Cure, now Ian Premer. If they're both on the same team in 2026, leading the charge for Chris Kleiman and potentially Avery Johnson, what maybe could be his last season as a Wildcat next year, that could be a really fun duo. It could be a really dynamic type of 2 players at the tight end position. Do you think that has any type of effect on his recruiting, knowing you have a top tight end in the system already, a very highly sought after recruit, someone who is seen as the top recruit in the program history before making that decision? If you're Ian Premer, knowing that Cure's already there, or does that actually help you knowing that you're coming into a great tight end class?
It's the latter, definitively. Great players want to play with great players. In tight end, whether you're a 12 personnel team, 1 running back to 2 tight ends, or you're traditionally a 10, if you get players like that, let's use Kiffin again. He's one of my favorite play callers. You're going to adjust to the guys you have. If your playmakers are bigger, okay, we're going to play more 11, more 12. We may put them in the slot. We may go 2 tight ends. We may play unbound. You're going to find whatever their strengths are because they're just great athletes. And I had a chance to be around Cure a few times because he played 7-on-7 with California Power. I know several of those coaches. I was like, who the heck is this guy? I said it differently, but I was like, who is this guy? And they said, he's from Kansas. They told me who he was. I'm like, I don't care where he's from. That's a really good football player. And I talked to him about his recruitment and all that. At that time, I thought he was going to go to Oregon, but obviously it changed. And he was giving problems for players that were much smaller than him, much faster than him, because he understood route running for a big guy. And he was just so strong. He would out physical players. You're not going to take him off the field if it's 3rd and 7. And you're probably not going to take Ian off the field if it's 3rd and 7. You could use him as pass protection. You could use him with route combinations, 1 in the slot, 1 at H-back, all kinds of stuff. Today's college football, man, great players want to play together and smart coaches put them together too.
Absolutely love it. All right, let's dig into the 2025 season heading into just less than 100 days away and talk about your thoughts about Kansas State, Avery Johnson, the new wide receiver group. So much more to talk about here on this special college crossover of Locked On Kansas State and the portal. Welcome back to the show. Christian Rauh, Locked On Kansas State host here with Brian Smith, the host of the largest growing YouTube show in the Locked On Podcast Network, the portal, talking transfer portal, recruiting, you name it. this is the expert to get it done. And Brian, I'm so excited to have you on the show. This is such an exciting time because I know my viewers absolutely are going to love this information, especially that little tidbit you just gave me in that past segment about Linkon Cure. I was ready to run through a wall just hearing that one, to be completely honest with you.
He's going to play right away, brother. He's going to play right away.
I can't wait to see it. And let's talk about what we might see in less than 100 days. Week 0 in Dublin, Ireland, still 11 o'clock Central Time. I can't get over that. Every time I talk about it, I still laugh about no matter what, even if it's across the pond, we're still getting an early game here. Kansas State, Iowa State, Week 0. The whole world is going to watch this game because it is the standalone, the opening of college football. What is your overall thoughts right now of Kansas State heading into the new year? Obviously 7-1 last season, fell off, wound up going 8-4, had a Rate Bowl victory win against Rutgers, not obviously what you're looking for. Big 12 championship is what is in the pedigree. Trying to make the college football playoffs is what's in store, hopefully, for Avery Johnson and the crew. What are you thinking as somebody from the outside looking in?
I want to see something we touched on earlier. How is their 4-man pass rush? One of the oldest adages, especially at the National Football League level, if you don't have the ability to get pressure on the quarterback with your down 4 and you're playing a quality quarterback, it's not going to be a good day. If you got to blitz constantly, experienced veteran quarterbacks tend to pick that apart. So can they get pressure on Rauh? Secondarily, I see from the transfer portal list, there's a lot of offensive linemen. That makes me very nervous. Did they lose a bunch of guys? Is there a problem there? I don't know, but you need to usually, if you look at the Final 4 teams of the playoff last year, 19 of the 20 starters between Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Texas were high school kids on the offensive lines. Long-term development. So I want to see how K-State's O-line comes out, and then, of course, quarterback play. He was a rocket. Then he was a falling dead quail. Like, he had games that you're like, this is amazing. Then he had moments, this is terrible. The throw he made against Colorado, the bomb, like, you can't throw it any better. Which version do we get from a consistency standpoint? He's got to take that step forward. And if he does, I mean, the talent level is through the roof. I saw him at Elite 11 a few years ago. The way he moves, the way he runs, everything about him is just like, Avery Johnson's not a normal guy. He could play receiver, but he's got the arm and the ability to throw from crazy angles. If he's on, he's a guy that could kind of surprise, and maybe they beat. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if it was a shootout, like 34-31 or something, because both teams have quarterbacks that are very talented. Maybe he's the guy that outduels Rauh Becht. Avery Johnson has that ability. Now I need to see it.
Yeah, I think this game, this Farmageddon in Dublin, is going to be a coin flip. I truly do, as of right now. Now, my points might change when we get closer to the game and I get a little bit more of an idea of what Iowa State really is. But as of right now, I do truly think it's a coin flip. When I look at this season right off the bat, you bring it up. Avery Johnson is obviously the X factor. Him getting potentially poached to go to Tennessee is a prime reason to show how important he is to this team. And he's not going anywhere. And he showed that. And he's going to be the leader of this squad. Second year as a starter. Last year, in his first year as the starter, he was not only fighting the fact that he wasn't Will Howard, but he was fighting the fact of just becoming a college football player in a really tough conference. Now he has that underneath him. He has a full offseason to grow and develop. He puts himself in the 23-mile-an-hour club during strength and conditioning this season before spring practice. There's a lot of really interesting things to like Avery Johnson's offseason. What I'm really the most excited about, Brian, and I'd like to pick your brain on this, is what is also added to the repertoire for Avery Johnson. You got Dylan Edwards in the running back room. Obviously lose DJ Giddens, but you got a fast, speedy Dylan Edwards back there. But for the wide receiver room, I think this is the most exciting thing. I think last year, even with a 7-1 start, I think you had a subpar wide receiver room. Now you keep Jace Brown, he's sticking around, but you also bring in size like Jaron Tibbs from Purdue, Jerand Bradley from Boston College / Texas Tech. You're bringing in some size. Touching with the tight ends, which we already said lead the country in red zone touchdowns. That's a lot more room for error, if you will, for Avery Johnson to work with.
Yeah, it's important that you're able to mix it up, and teams can't just take away your number one option on every play and say, screw you, we're going to double cover this guy, and we're going to shade the linebacker to his side too. If you're a one receiver / tight end team, that's what happens. It's an open book on how to stop that team. Now, the running back is the key to me. Not only do you got to find a way to keep him healthy, he's not the biggest guy, but I've seen him live in high school. Like he can fly and all that. get him the ball on screens, do different things with him, move him around, put him in the slot, just to use eye candy. I hope they've expanded their offense even more with whatever they did last year, expand it, and they should, in Farmageddon, they should absolutely do it. It's a chance to promote your program. And they should also have something else in the bag. Why not a throwback pass to Avery or something like that? Anything, because he's a freaky athlete now. Like I saw him at Elite 11. He can drop down and throw submarine like a pitcher. Way back in the day, Kenta Colby or somebody like that with the Pittsburgh Pirates, late 70s, early 80s, that kind of thing. He's an athlete. Get him on the perimeter. I know they can't afford to get him hit, but Kansas State's not going anywhere without him running quite a bit. Let's be honest. He's a freak athlete. If he gets hurt, it is what it is. But you got to run him some, and I hope they just kind of let him be unleashed a little bit. The only question is, and I know they're going to coach this, it says Avery take it, is he going to be consistent from the pocket with on-time, on-rhythm throws? Last year, that was his biggest problem, in my opinion. Sometimes he just didn't see it that well. It didn't matter if it was zone, if it was match, man, whatever. Every now and then he just threw one and the ball get halfway there. You're like, no. That's not going to end well. Those got to go away. So they got more talent to throw to. That should help. So there'll be more separation. But it's still quarterback reads. It's why the position is the hardest, even for the NFL scouts. Arm talent's great, but if you're throwing it to the wrong place, it's irrelevant. You know, I saw Tom Brady play live in college. He was pretty good. Nobody had any idea that it was going to develop like that. So it's just he was the smartest guy on the field. If Avery develops some of that from the pocket presence, I know you're going to blitz me, I'm going to make the first guy miss, scramble out to the right and kill you with a 30-yard dart. Yeah, he'll make that play. I'm more worried about the 7-yard hitch. As goofy as it, like, he makes the easy plays hard sometimes, and it's just mind-blowing. But if he gets past that, K-State could be in the Big 12 title game and be on the cusp of the playoff. It would not surprise me at all.
No, I love that. You just took my last question, but I'm okay with that. Asking you if you think they can be a Big 12 contender.
Oh, 100%.
And I love that. Absolutely. Hey, look, if Avery Johnson can do exactly what you said, and hopefully I'm hoping that the issues that he had last year were just first-year blunders. That's what I'm hoping that happens. If he can take that step forward in year two, after having what I think is a great offseason, I think the momentum is so high with this program. If he can do it, I'm right on board with you. I think this is a Big 12 contending team, Brian. I truly do think this is a team that is going to be fighting for the Dr. Pepper Big 12 championship. And at the end of the year, got to get Dr. Pepper in there, right? They have multiple flavors, 23 different flavors. So lots of good stuff. Brian, where can everyone find your show? It is honestly, every time I look, you have more subscribers, you get more fans, more viewers. You are just growing on YouTube, and for good reason. You bring so much value over on the portal. So where can everyone find you?
At LO_the portal on X. We're on every platform you can get. Locked On Kansas State, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, wherever you get them. I have multiple shows on most days. Like I'll have a team show, and I have a thing I call the Recruiting Blitz, who committed in the last 24, 48 hours. I'll also do the breakdowns. I just did receiver. I'm going to do slot receivers, then tight end. Yes, Ian will be on the list. I don't know exactly where, but he'll be towards the top. Somewhere in the top 5 is a lock. And we're just going to continue on offensive tackle and on down the line. So it's a variety pack. I have John Garcia Jr. on from Rivals. He's a national recruiting analyst all the time. And then I give my takes on all my different stuff in regards to where I visit. Rivals camp, Under Armour, going to all-star games, going to IMG, you name it. I'm always going to be there.
I love it. And you do lots of good stuff on Twitter X as well. I see you always putting some good value over there. Lots of good stuff here on the portal. So be sure to give that a follow and make that your second listen of the day if you're not already listening on the episode right now. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And this has been a special college crossover of Locked On Kansas State and the portal.